Hi, this is Alicia Burns, giving my presentation on the ethical dilemma. The ethical dilemma that I chose was from the video, How Can You Understand? The dilemma is the client is a Black woman who decides to come to counseling to address issues that she's having in school. She's an adult. The counselor is a white woman. The client expresses concerns about their different races and states that she has never had counseling and does not believe that counseling can help her. I believe the main problem is concern over multicultural differences and whether the counselor is qualified to provide counseling for this client. The secondary problem is the informed consent adequate given the client's expressed concerns? The ethical issue, I believe, is the counselor able to honor the diversity and embrace the uniqueness of this client by taking a multicultural approach as defined in the values of the ACA Code of Ethics of 2014. In researching the ACA standards and Virginia codes, I found that the American Counseling Association 2014 had several codes that addressed these issues. And the first one is Section A1D, which is support networks to enhance learning for counselors. Section A2A, B, and C address issues of the informed consent and what needs to be included in that. Section B1A talks about the multicultural diversity regarding confidentiality practices, and Section C2E talks about requirements of counselors to consult with others regarding ethics issues. All of these were mainly multicultural or ethical aspects of treatment. In the Commonwealth of Virginia regulations governing the practice of professional counseling of 2009, Section 18 VAC 115, 2051, Sections A1 and A9 address the issue of counselors completing education in ethics and multicultural counseling techniques. Section 18 VAC 115, 2052, Section B1F talks about counselors must complete education on professional ethics and the standards of practice, both of those regarding the education. When I looked at the federal codes, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, from the Health and Human Services Office of Civil Rights of 2013 discusses the informed consent and what is really required in that informed consent. Section 164-506 talks about the counselor credentials, making sure that they are represented accurately and the types of services that are offered, as well as the fee structure that is given. Section 124-524 talks about how the client can request information and how that's disseminated, and also they are to let them know that they can see their records if they need to. Rimley and Herlihy of 2025 talked about additional items to be included in the informed consent, such as how client information will be used and stored, the risk of diagnosis on medical records, letting the client know that the information will be provided to health insurance agencies and what will actually be provided, description of procedures to be followed in counseling, offering no guarantees or outcomes of counseling. And then privacy and confidentiality rules and limitations. The nature of this dilemma is, I think, focused on client autonomy, allowing the client to make informed decisions for themselves according to the ACA Code of Ethics of 2014. The support that I found through literature in CORS and others 2020, autonomy support from the counselor allows clients to have greater empowerment and buy-in in their services. And Herod 2024 talked about how counselors really need to be aware of the cultural differences, norms, and things that so they know and are responsible to learn the backgrounds, customs, beliefs of those in different cultures. That's just part of their requirements. They should take that seriously. Consultants and organizations. I have Lee Thomas, LPC, and Austin Francis, LPC, both mentors of mine in this counseling world. And associations would be the Virginia Counselors Association, Central Valley Chapter Association, and the American Counselors Association. Potential courses of action. The first was informed consent. Second, consultation with peers. Third, self-evaluation. Or four, refer to another counselor. And looking at the consequences of each of these actions, with the informed consent, I believe client awareness would be increased, also client autonomy and counselor transparency. With consultation with peers, I think there's going to be increased knowledge for the counselor, that the client will also feel more understood. In looking at self-evaluation, counselor self-awareness could be increased. There should be greater therapeutic alliance and greater community growth because of that. And also the last option, refer to another counselor. This felt more negative consequences, such as like discrimination could be felt. The client could feel discriminated against, discounting that client autonomy by not giving her choice, and could also emotionally harm the client if abandonment was one of her issues. The actions that were chosen was a combination of actions. The informed consent, consultation with peers, and self-evaluation, I felt was a well-rounded choice of actions for this particular situation. When looking at the courses of action in the informed consent, the justice question of, is this fair? And I think in looking at Daniel 2024, there were a couple of different things. The first one saying that even though there is inequality in our culture, it's important to treat everyone fairly and equitably, and also giving clients the information they need to make decisions for themselves, and that addressing that autonomy piece. It does empower them. So I think that fully answers the justice question, that it definitely is fair. For publicity, what I want the public to know of my decision. And I think protecting the client welfare by being transparent and thorough in the informed consent. Rimley and Herlihy 2025 addressed this issue, and I think that definitely that would be something that I would want the public to know, that we are very thorough in the informed consent. Universality, professionalism, and information provided, Rimley and Herlihy 2025. And providing linguistically appropriate services, according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Both of those pieces, I think, would be something that I would recommend to others for those two reasons. Consultation with peers. So answering, again, the justice question, I would think, yes, it promotes the welfare of the client and increases knowledge of the counselor. So yes, that would definitely be fair for them. In publicity, actually, the section C2E of the ACA Code of Ethics of 2014 requires consultation on ethics issues. So I would definitely want the public to know that that's something that I was doing. And universality promotes learning in multiculturalism, Rhodes 2025. I think, yes, I would recommend that consulting with peers would be something that all of us could use, and that's going to promote that in counseling, in the field of counseling. For self-evaluation, Rhodes talked about growing my own knowledge and expanding the field of counseling, and how that would definitely be fair to the client. It's really unfair to think that I'm not aware of my own values. And then in being aware of those things, being able to do the ethical bracketing that Daniel talked about in 2025. The publicity question, Herod 2024, and also the ACA Code of Ethics of 2014 in section A4B talks about being aware of my own values and how they impact sessions. So again, yes, I want the public to know that I'm aware of what my values are and how those are going to impact sessions. Universality, again, encouraging others to learn and grow in their own self-awareness, I think would be something that I would definitely encourage others to do in the field of counseling. For implementation, for steps 1 and 2, in the informed consent, I think first of all, ensuring that all aspects of the informed consent are included, up to date, and covered in the intake appointment. Rimley and Herlihy 2025 gave a lot of the different pieces that were needed to be included in that. I would address autonomy with the client in the intake appointment, allowing them to know that they have choice of what they want to do, and kind of letting them know what they're getting themselves into. Also demonstrating kindness, compassion, and humility for my client in accordance with Colossians 3:12 from the New International Version, to just treat them with respect and love them well. And then revisiting the informed consent and all these other issues throughout the whole counseling process. Rimley and Herlihy 2025 definitely talked about the intake. The informed consent is not a one and done deal. It's something that you kind of address throughout the whole time they're with you. In seeking consultation from peers, the first thing I would do would be to contact the two mentors, Lee Thomas and Austin Francis. and then use associations with the Virginia Counselors Association, Central Valley Chapter Association, and the American Counselors Association to find information and to just be continuing to make connections through those organizations. Hopefully, I would be able to be in connection with other counselors from other cultures that, in this particular case, hope being able to contact a Black counselor to get additional information about what my best practices would be in this multicultural process. The last step for self-evaluation, definitely prayer, time in the Bible and the Word, just really listening to what the Lord wants to tell me. Scheduling supervision or time with my own counselor to help process and clarify my own values, identify potential triggers and how those could potentially influence sessions, again, following the ACA Code of Ethics of 2014. And then being curious about other cultures. In Curling and Others 2023, they talked about cultural humility and just really being open to learning what other cultures are all about and how that can really grow our community. So in closing, this was a great process of learning how to kind of work through the whole ethics process and learning more about the informed consent and how important it's going to be to have others that I reach out to and connect with throughout my counseling career. And then also constantly self-evaluating and looking at what are the things that I need to learn and grow in that. So I think that's it. Thank you very much.